I'm truly humbled to talk to such an esteemed gathering of intellectuals, academics, and scientists. So it is a very daunting, task for me to speak in front of esteemed physicists. For I'm a person of literature, and I always tell my grandchildren that, beta, I don't even know what is 2 plus 2. And they always, they say, Ammi ji, aapko kuch nahi aata hai. So, mere liye ye bada ye daunting task. And nevertheless, I'll try to sum up the debate. I think the most interesting aspect of this session was that a lot of questions were raised, and that is more important, especially the ontological and epistemological questions that were raised that are very important, because there's a lot of debate about the ontology and epistemology of knowledge, and physics is a branch of knowledge. So as Dr. Usman said that he raised the question, how does science work, and what are the constraints on the methodology of science? And we have already seen that most of the speakers, in fact all the speakers, they discussed that the major constraint on the epistemology of science is that it has divorced the intellectus. And when I use this word intellectus, I use it in the sense it was used in the medieval ages, that is with the capital I. It is not to be confused with the word intellect, because intellect word has been reduced to science, to reason and logic only. Now, intellectus was an equivalent for Shahe Aql or for Kalbe Salim. So that source of knowledge, it was wrenched apart from the repertoire of scientists' tools in the age of enlightenment. And that was the beginning of the growth of scientism. Now, the word scientism has to be distinguished from the word scientific. Scientific is a positive word, whereas scientism is a negative word. It means exclusive. Exclusive reliance upon positivism, empiricism, nominalism, and objectivism. So this exclusive, fragmented reliance upon these modes of knowledge, they omit a major source of knowledge, and that is intuition, that is revelation. And that is what the Sufis talk about. I will here then move on to the use of language. In the 17th century, when the Royal Society of Scientific Studies was set up in England to promote science, to consolidate science, it was decided that all the words that are ambiguous, that have a symbolic import, that evokes a range of meanings, all such words are not to be used by the scientists, because the emphasis was on precision, accuracy. Now, this was a mistake, because you see, this made the European languages especially monolingual. The meaning was restricted to the literal denotative meaning only. And the resonance of the symbolic language in which Sufi literature abounds, that was blocked. And as the German philosopher Wittgenstein, he said that my world ends where my language ends. So this was a deficiency that was artificially created in the European languages, that they became denotative only. They put the emphasis on literal meaning only. So one thing that Sufi literature can do to enrich understanding of the relationship between science and Sufism is to lend the Sufi use of language that is resonant with multiple meanings that work at multiple levels. Ansi Kullberg mentioned that in Finnish language, there is no particular use of gender for the male, female, or God. So languages, you see, in languages, there are lacunas. Lacunas means empty spaces, gaps. So they have to borrow words from other languages. And this is how languages grow. Otherwise, languages, you see, they're not simply cosmetic features. They are not like fossils to be put into museums. Languages are organic and they grow, and they show the growth of the mind and soul and imagination. So this is one way whereby Sufi literature can make its rich contribution to languages. And this is also important to note that whereas in the 17th century, you see, the language was reduced to it language only, because of the designative tradition in philosophy. Now in the 20th century, Lakoff and Johnson, these are two cognitive linguists, and they have come up with the theory of the metaphorical concept of language. And they say that there are metaphors in languages because human mind is constituted as such. We think in terms of metaphors. Again, you see, this brings out the relationship between reason and imagination, pictures, images, and scientific facts. So they have talked a lot about how metaphors, they serve ontological, cognitive, and heuristic function. So all the concepts that the esteemed speakers have been talking about, लामुतनाही ज़ात जो अल्लाह ताला की है, और वो जो रूहानी एक सफ़र है, which is intangible, it cannot be seen. These are all abstractions which were rejected by science. So all these abstractions, they have been expressed in terms of metaphors because they give us a handle on abstract concepts. So they help us to understand reality. And heuristic function is not just understanding, it is also to, you see, find a solution. So again, a synthesis of the Sufi thought and the scientific thought, not scientism, but scientific thought can, you see, reduce the tensions. Sufism and science, they are not at loggerheads with each other. They are supportive of each other, and this is in alliance or aligned to the idea of unity of being. So the different spheres of art, morals, literature, and science that were disassociated, split, and fragmented in the 17th century, they can be once again brought together. And the concept of unity of being or tawheed helps us to understand the unity of life, be it the Western world or the Eastern world, as our esteemed diplomat from Finland has said, that we have to emphasize the sharedness of human experience, the commonalities between human beings, no matter whether we are living in Finland or Indonesia or in Pakistan or in some other part of the world, we are all human beings. And Sufis talk about human beings, and that is why Mevlana Rumi, he says, come and join the caravan of love. Wherever you are, whether you're in a synagogue or a temple or a mandir or a mosque, you're all part of the same caravan, so come and join us. So this is, you see, the shared humanity that has to be emphasized. And I remember once Sahibzada Saab told me about, you see, the significance of the use of serving the lentils, dal, in langar, in the subcontinent. I mean, the beauty of serving dal in langar in the subcontinent is that, you see, langars in the Sufi khankas, shrines, they were open for all. They were open for all. People from different parts, from different religions visited Sufis and Sufi shrines, and they were equally served food. Now, lentil dal is a food that can be eaten by all the religions, by the Hindus, by the Sikhs, by the Muslims, by the Christians. So this is the inclusiveness of Sufism that needs to be emphasized, because this is the lesson of love and tolerance that the world needs today. We have to remove all the misconceptions. The misconception that people in the West are arrogant. The misconception that people in the Islamic world, they're conformists. They're slavish in the sense, because this brings me to, and I will try to cut it short, but this brings me to another point. One of the questions that was raised about the Sufi universe based on the concept of fear. So the concept that, you see, that God in Islam is a very, very distant God, the theory of great gulf between man, human beings, and God, and that the relationship of ubudiyat is one of a slave groveling before God, who's almighty and scaring, and who is intimidating and who is threatening with hellfire. By the way, we have to remember that the Sufis never threatened anyone with hellfire. Their message was one of love, and this is the path of love. And one thing that needs to be emphasized is that the Sufis believe in the religion of love. It is a God of love, and it is a religion of love, and it is the path of love. And that is the significance of the metaphor of the lover and the beloved in Sufi poetry. The emphasis is not on the wayfarer or the seeker of God along the Sufi path as an ascetic, as a pilgrim, who is, you see, hard on himself and who is arrogant towards other. I mean, this reminds me of one of the lines from Shakespeare, in which there is a character in one of his comedies, Malvolio, and he is a Puritan. It's like the Zahid Khushk in Urdu Shairi, जो हर वक्त दूसरों को जो है ना वो तलकीन करता रहता है और वो मुनाफिक है और खुद he himself wants to enjoy all the pleasures. So he goes and scolds a party of dancers and revelers, and the answer is that, do you think that because you are virtuous there shall be no more cakes and ale? A Sufi never preaches. A Sufi is not didactic. A Sufi definitely instructs us to conquer our base emotions of anger, of competition, cutthroat competition, selfishness, materialistic desires, killing other people. But a Sufi is never a person who deprives people of their simple pleasures. So it's a God of love, and that is why you see in Sufi literature, we have manajat. Manajat is a special kind of prayer. I mean, at least I cannot find an equivalent of this form of prayer in other religions. Please correct me if I am wrong. I may be wrong, for I'm not a scholar of religion. But manajat is a form of prayer in which there is a very, very intimate relationship between the one who prays and God. And the one who prays, the Sufi who prays, he or she is not asking for a place in paradise. All that a Sufi is asking, and there are women Sufis as well. So we know about Hazrat Rabia Basri. So all that a Sufi is asking for is love. And as it is said that even if a Sufi is placed is given a place in hell, but if he is not deprived of the vision of God or the love of God, he or she would rather prefer to remain in hell rather than be deprived of the vision of God. Allah Ta'ala ke दीदार से वो महरूम नहीं होना चाहते. तो ये मुनाजात की जो significance, again you see this emphasizes the dimension or the aspect of God as love. Whereas in, you see some of the philosophies in utilitarianism and deism, we find the image of God as a clockmaker, who just like a clockmaker who made the clock, and then he forgot about the clock, He said the clock has been, set in order and it may go wrong. Nobody cares. But here in Sufi literature, we find a God who cares, who never gives up his creatures. He's always there to listen to them. He's always there to rescue them, even at the last moment of their life. We have a spark of the divine within us. We have been breathed into by the Holy Spirit. So this is the divine relationship that the Sufis emphasize. I believe, I'm sure, I'm confident that this is what is going to rescue humanity, that human beings, they may at times descend into atrocious behavior, but they can be rescued. They can be rescued by the divine who is all love. Thank you so much.